Hi and welcome. I'm Andy Mioch and you are watching A News. Here are the headlines. Iran set to resume nuclear talks with Britain, France and Germany this week. At least 19 killed and dozens injured after a military jet crashes into a school in Bangladesh. Azerbaijan hosts the third edition of the Shusha Global Media Forum. Thank you for tuning in. Iran is set to resume nuclear talks with Britain, France and Germany on Friday in Istanbul. The negotiations initiated by the three European signatories of the original nuclear deal Tehran struck with world powers in 2015 aim to revive the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action and reduce tensions surrounding Tehran's nuclear activities. As European and Iranian diplomats are gearing up for their talks in Turkey, for more on the latest details surrounding Iran's nuclear program and tensions in the broader region, we go to Tehran and our Turaj Shiralilu.
The European Troika of Germany, France and the United Kingdom are confirmed to meet Iranian negotiators in Istanbul for the first time after the 24th June ceasefire in the 12-day war on Iran by Israel and US. Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesman Ismail Baghai confirmed on Monday that the meeting will be held at the level of deputy foreign ministers and that EU foreign policy deputy chief will also take part in the Istanbul discussions. The spokesman did not announce the date of the meeting in Turkey, but said it will discuss settlement of differences and Iran's serious demand to remove sanctions. The E3 has threatened to call for fast return or snapback of UN sanctions in October, which were terminated by the resolution 2231 in 2015, endorsing the nuclear agreement or JCPOA reached the same year in Vienna between Iran on one side and the E3 plus China, Russia and US on the other. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, in a post on his X account on Sunday, said he sent a letter to UN Secretary General, Chair State of the Security Council and EU Foreign Policy Chief, outlining why the E3 lacks legal, political and moral standing to invoke the snapback mechanism. He said, the E3 cannot and shall not be allowed to undermine the credibility of the UN Security Council by abusing a resolution to which they themselves have not been committed. Turaj Shiralilu, reporting for A News TV, Tehran.
Still in Iran, the foreign ministry confirmed a trilateral meeting with Russia and China is set for tomorrow in Tehran on the country's nuclear program and the risk of UN sanctions being reimposed under the so-called snapback mechanism. The ministry spokesperson referred to Russia and China, who are permanent members of the UN Security Council, as close allies of Tehran with shared views and strong ties. He also said that given the current situation, Iran has no plans to hold talks with the US. Syria's Emergency and Disaster Ministry stated it's providing aid to residents of Sweda. Damascus says that a truce is holding following clashes in and around the city that reportedly saw hundreds killed. The fighting in the predominantly Druze city prompted Israel to launch airstrikes against Syria's government forces, saying it is doing so in support of the Druze. Joining us to talk on the situation in Syria is Melih Demirtas, researcher and political analyst, coming to us from Ankara. Welcome, Melih. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, there are fresh reports coming in of the evacuation of hundreds of Bedouin civilians from the predominantly Druze city of Sweda, and Damascus says that the US-backed truce is in effect. There were several announcements of deals and truces being made earlier with no effect. Do you expect this one to hold?
Thank you, Mr. Mish. It is important, of course, developments happening just last week. We may be a bit shocked again because the every active, but not again in a positive sense, activeness, I mean in a negative sense of activeness of Israel in our region, really shakes the balances also for a very near region, I mean in Syria. now in the southern side, which is so near to, of course, Israeli territory with the Israeli border. It's turned to be so easy for Israeli military force. I think whenever they want, they really, please do not forget the first weeks, the first months of course, the new regime of Syria. We also saw the same stories from the side of Israel. No, another community, another important maybe historical community, Druze side, is very skillfully used as a pretext maybe to make another interference to this Syrian politics. But now, interestingly, a difference now stands on in front of us between United States and Israel. I think United States maybe diplomats or also policymakers maybe stand much more in a moderate sense of diplomacy. But despite of this, we cannot believe what maybe Mr. Netanyahu in his far right understanding still going on. Still doing in the Syrian territory with every rocket, every missile to these areas. We can say that new problems can occur. What we cannot accept is Turkey. We will already as President Erdogan said that showed our stance or showed our opposition to this unilateral event from the Israeli side.
Well, Washington was, as you mentioned, very unhappy about Israeli airstrikes in Syria, given their renewed policy towards the authorities in Damascus. We've seen sanctions being lifted and so on. Do you expect Israel to further to engage in new strikes in Syria against the wishes of the White House?
Unfortunately, it's possible because what is going on in Palestine, I really want to link the situation again with Palestine. Some experts do not want to see this such crisis. Also the Iranian crisis, Syrian crisis, they do not want to link directly with the Palestinian humanitarian catastrophe. But please do not be blind to these international scenes which are coming from Palestine nowadays. It is like the postmodern genocide scenes. Just every day, how many children, how many civilian people are losing their lives because of this postmodern famine, because of this postmodern really genocidal conditions, first led by Israel. We do not know still, because we do not know also that international experts, first of all, United Nations, of course, independent experts and diplomats cannot enter so freely, they cannot work there. So I think with the pretext of new maybe communities, in Syria, in other maybe in Lebanon, also do not forget in Lebanon also there are always high risks because of these Israeli attacks. But I think the real cause, I think the real situation in the background always stands as this Palestinian real important humanitarian catastrophe, which is first of all led by Israeli harsh and really catastrophic and destroying military forces.
I'll just add there that international journalists are also not allowed into the Gaza Strip. Now, as Ankara has been one of the strongest, maybe even the strongest backers of Damascus since the ousting of Assad, do Israel's strike complicate things for the Ankara-Tel Aviv dynamics, and what can be expected in those bilateral relations?
Turkey always stands, Mr. Much, in the side of this diplomacy and moderations. As you may remember, the Turkish-Israel relations, I think during the Cold War times, during the very tense atmospheres, I think till this government, the government under Mr. Netanyahu in its very real far-rightist elements inside his cabinet, I think until this time we did our best, with the diplomacy terms, with the diplomacy vehicles, tools, moderation tools, but still, in every step of Turkey or like the actors, similar to Turkey's, even the Iranian situation, I think the first news about this Iranian diplomatic solutions for these nuclear talks, I really totally agree that the diplomacy can work, diplomacy can go on, inside our region, but still, we cannot understand after this Palestinian very difficult situation after 2023, Israel's face changed so radically. So radically after maybe Second World War, it really forgot. It's really founded, it's really established on the basis of this humanitarian terms, this Israeli state. But now every government official denies really this reality. And so Turkey cannot accept at that point to have any talk, any moderation with such a kind of Israel.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and providing us with your insight.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell.
Over in Ukraine, Russia carried out yet another large-scale drone and missile attack overnight, killing at least one person and injuring 6 others in Kiev, local officials said. Multiple explosions rocked the capital throughout the night, sparking fires and damaging infrastructure. In eastern Ukraine, explosions were reported in Kharkiv, with no immediate damage details. The strikes come days after Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky proposed a new round of peace talks to Moscow. The Kremlin said Moscow was in favor of a new round of peace talks between Russia and Ukraine, but the two sides' positions were diametrically opposed, so there was a lot of diplomatic work to be done. Earlier, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said that Russia was ready to move swiftly towards a peace deal in Ukraine, but claimed the process can't succeed without cooperation from the West. In an interview with State TV, he said Putin's goals remain clear and unchanging, despite recent U.S. threats of new sanctions and a 50-day ceasefire ultimatum.
Indeed, President Putin has repeatedly spoken of his desire to bring the Ukrainian settlement to a peaceful conclusion as soon as possible. This is a long process. It requires effort. It is not easy, and it seems Washington is increasingly coming to understand this. Russia is prepared to move swiftly. For us, the main thing is to achieve our objectives. They are clear, obvious, and unchanging. But the process doesn't depend solely on us.
Moscow has been hit by heavy rain, causing flooding in the streets and stopping some metro lines. A yellow weather alert is in place, and forecasters warn of new strong winds, along with scattered thunderstorms and hail. Local officials are urging residents to avoid driving and instead use public transport. At least 19 people were killed and dozens more injured after a military training jet crashed into a school and a college campus in Dhaka, Bangladesh. The Bangladesh Air Force F-7 jet crashed into Milestone School and College in the Uttara area of the capital, causing a blaze that tore through the building. The government has promised a full investigation and support for victims, describing the loss of life and the tragedy as irreparable. Japan's Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba is facing mounting pressure after his coalition lost its majority in the upper house after Saturday's election. Despite the setback, Ishiba says he has no plans to resign.
Japan's Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba says he'll remain in office after his ruling coalition suffered a heavy defeat in the upper house election on Saturday. The Liberal Democratic Party and its partner Komeito failed to secure the 50 seats needed to retain their majority. The loss deepens Ishiba's political troubles, coming less than a year after his coalition also lost control of the more powerful lower house. His government now becomes Japan's first minority administration in more than 3 decades. The result is widely seen as a rebuke from voters who are struggling with the rising cost of living, particularly with food prices such as rice. A string of political scandals has also weakened public trust in the Liberal Democratic Party.
I think the ruling party had great opportunities, such as Trump's outrage and the soaring rice prices. Had the ruling party resolved even one of these issues, their approval rate would have gone up, but we didn't feel anything, and it seems like the US would continue to push us around.
I think the government should tax people in a more effective way. It should tax the people who are earning a lot. People with lower incomes should not suffer.
Opposition parties, especially the Constitutional Democratic Party, led by the former Prime Minister Yoshihiko Noda, made gains. But it's the rise of smaller far-right parties, such as Sanseito, that's drawing attention. Their anti-immigration, ultra-nationalist messaging appears to have cut into the Liberal Party's more traditional base. Despite calls for his resignation, Ishiba says his priority is guiding Japan through critical trade talks with the United States, with a deadline looming next month. But with internal party rivals waiting in the wings and voter confidence shaken, questions remain over how long Ishiba can hold on.
South Korea says it's exploring ways to improve relations with the North, including the possibility of allowing individual tours. Tourism isn't banned under United Nations sanctions on Pyongyang, but access remains limited. This comes as South Korea's President Lee Jae-myung moves to ease tensions. even though hurdles, including loudspeaker broadcasts and leaflet campaigns along the border, remain. U.S. Senator Adam Schiff is once again in President Donald Trump's crosshairs, facing accusations related to property loans. While the allegations make headlines, Schiff is framing them as a distraction from larger issues.
California Senator Adam Schiff is facing renewed scrutiny after President Donald Trump accused him of mortgage fraud. Schiff declined to address these allegations directly. In a recent Truth Social post, President Trump called the senator a thief. U.S. leader claimed that Schiff should be prosecuted, just like they tried to prosecute him. Previously speaking via Truth Social, Trump claimed that Schiff misled mortgage lenders by listing his Maryland home as his primary residence. Despite serving as a congressman from California, according to Trump, Schiff tried to secure better loan terms. The president called Schiff a crook and alleged a pattern of misrepresentation starting in 2009, continuing through 2020. According to a memo reviewed by the Los Angeles Times, a Fannie Mae investigation found that Schiff and his wife had, at various times, listed different properties. The memo concluded that the couple showed a sustained pattern of possible occupancy misrepresentation. When approached by Fox News Digital on Capitol Hill, Schiff declined to respond to the accusations and simply said, "Have a nice day."
Trump posted this on social media, accusing me of crimes and saying...
In a video statement posted to YouTube, Schiff dismissed the claims as politically motivated. Schiff called the accusations an act of political retaliation. The congressman, who led Trump's first impeachment, was elected to the U.S. Senate in 2024 after serving 12 terms in the House.
The Shusha Global Media Forum continues. Our very own Orhan Amashov is at the venue and brings us the highlights of today.
Today, the panel discussions were largely centered around the artificial intelligence as usual. That's an indispensable element of discussion for this forum. And a particular emphasis today has been on social media, its impact on public trust. And we heard from different social media executives. The representatives of TikTok and LinkedIn were present. They responded to questions of journalists. And one of the fundamental things was about the content creation today. And to what extent, actually, we could be dominated by technology. I think that the key dominant moment was that even that technology, which seems to be in the long run in a position of controlling us, could still be challenged by human intellect. And I think that that was point very clearly mentioned by one of the panelists during that one-on-one panel where Kate Wilson was present. And the fundamental argument there was that although when you make an inquiry and technology on the basis of what is there makes a response, and that response is not necessarily factual, and you understand it on the basis of your own human intelligence, further inquiries could actually make sure that you get most out of that information, that platform, which is also thinking platform, but not human intellect. I think that was one of the main points. Knee-jerk reaction, as has been the case over the past years, to anything innovative, if progress-oriented, has been to contain it, limit it, to worry about its implications for job market, for example. But the feeling here is that AI is something which is our invention. It should not be contained, but it should be properly regulated. And quite a lot of discussion there has been about the media ethics, the use of AI in such a way that the media ethics have been preserved and also advanced in the fullness of time going forward. And that was a really key sensibility of this day mainly. On the panel discussion, we had 3 distinct panel discussions, with the last one being about social media, its influence on public trust, and its interaction with new technologies. And now the Media Forum is drawing to an end, and some conclusions are being already made.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said the opening of the Zangezur corridor could revitalize trade and promote cooperation across the region. Speaking to reporters on his return from northern Cyprus, Erdogan emphasized that the corridor would benefit not only Azerbaijan, Armenia and Turkey, but also other neighboring countries. He described the project as a key geo-economic link that could connect the region with wider global markets. Armenia will build a 42-kilometer railway in Syunik province as part of the Zangezur corridor only after reaching an agreement with Azerbaijan, according to Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan's spokesperson Nazeli Bagdasaryan. She said the railway cannot operate even for domestic transport in Armenia unless a deal is in place. Preparatory work has already started, including a new road to Nirnadzor village, which is currently connected via the old railway line. Bagdasaryan added that Armenia supports reopening all transport routes with neighboring countries. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan called for international recognition of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. Speaking at a ceremony in Nicosia marking the 51st anniversary of the Cyprus peace operation, Erdogan said the decades-long injustice against Turkish Cypriots must come to an end. He voiced full support for the two-state vision, urging the international community to accept what he called realities on the ground. Archaeological work continues in Turkey's Kahramanmaraş, where new discoveries from the late Bronze Age have been made. At Yasi Mound, a team has unearthed structures and silos believed to be used for storage, sparking hopes of finding written sources.
In the Afshin district of Kahramanmaraş, excavations at Yasi Mound are revealing important clues from ancient times. Teams have uncovered parts of a large structure and storage silos thought to date back to the late Bronze Age or Hittite period. Excavation director says this season brought new excitement as a two-phase building process was identified, including signs of renovation. A number tablet was previously found at the site, possibly a form of receipt. This has fueled hopes of discovering more written records, especially from the Assyrian trade colonies period.
We're also experiencing the excitement of wondering, are we getting closer to written sources? Will we uncover any tablets or other findings?
Over the years, findings from multiple periods have emerged at the mound, from a Roman basilica to a Persian-era administrative complex. Experts believe the site may reveal even earlier history as they carefully sift through layers dating back to 6000 BC.
Well, that's all we have for you for now. Thank you so much for watching, and do stay tuned to A News.